That sentence explains the behavior of more men than you realize. And if you don't understand it, you'll misinterpret his signals. You'll think distance means disinterest, hesitation means rejection, or silence means absence. But often what looks like resistance is actually fear. Fear of exposure, fear of losing control, fear of being vulnerable enough that you could wound him. So let's break it down. Sign number 1, his actions lean toward you, but his words pull away. Pay close attention. This is one of the most confusing dynamics to witness. His actions, his presence, his effort, the way he shows up, reveal care. He checks on you. He notices the details. He remembers what you said. His body is speaking the language of connection. Yet when pressed to define it, his words shrink. He minimizes. He avoids labels. He may even say, "I'm not ready." This isn't hypocrisy. It's fear. He is emotionally attached but terrified of saying it out loud because saying it locks him in. Words make it real, and real makes it risky. Sign number 2, he invests energy in small ways, but avoids direct declarations. Look for patterns, not speeches. He'll do thoughtful things. He'll be there when you're sick. He'll remember your schedule. He'll support you in quiet moments that cost him time. But when it comes to bold declarations of love, he freezes. Why? Because declarations create expectations, and expectations make him vulnerable to failure. His attachment is proven in gestures, but his fear silences his mouth. Sign number 3, his fear of losing independence collides with his need for connection. Every man carries this tension. On one hand, he craves closeness, the bond, the intimacy of knowing someone sees him. On the other hand, he fears that closeness will strip away his freedom, his identity, his control. So he vacillates. He moves toward you, then pulls back. He attaches, then retreats. Not because his feelings aren't real, but because his fear is louder than his courage. The danger is that you'll misread this dance as rejection. But more often than not, it's a war inside his psyche. Connection versus independence. Vulnerability versus control. Sign number 4, he stays present through consistency even when he avoids intensity. Here's the paradox. He might not confess his feelings boldly, but he doesn't leave either. He lingers. He shows up. He stays woven into your life in subtle but constant ways. This is not convenience, it's attachment. If he were detached, he would vanish. But the fact that he keeps orbiting, keeps returning, keeps maintaining contact even in hesitation is proof he cannot detach. His fear holds him back, but his attachment holds him near. Now, here's the part you must not miss. Fear does not cancel attachment, it coexists with it. If you mistake fear for indifference, you will walk away from someone whose heart is already leaning toward you, even if his words haven't caught up yet. But here's the truth you must hold. You cannot save him from his fear. You cannot carry both your courage and his hesitation. He must fight that battle. He must confront the part of himself that resists vulnerability. Your strength lies in observation, not in rescue. You must see his fear clearly, respect his attachment, but never let his hesitation drag you into weakness. And this is where so many go wrong. They confuse patience with self-abandonment. They wait forever for the scared man to declare what his actions already show, but never will. That is not strength. That is self-betrayal. The test of your power is this. Can you recognize his attachment without excusing his fear forever? Can you respect his struggle without making it your cage? Remember this, a man's attachment is not enough if it never transforms into commitment. Fear may be real, but it cannot be your prison. Your job is not to fix his courage. Your job is to hold your standard, to say, I see your actions, I feel your presence, but I will not live indefinitely in your hesitation. Because love demands courage. Presence must evolve into declaration. Attachment must evolve into action. And if he cannot find that courage, then your courage must be the one to walk. Not as punishment, not as anger, but as clarity. Because a relationship cannot be built on excuses, no matter how attached he is. So never confuse silence for love. Never confuse hesitation for destiny. Look at the signs, read them with clarity, understand them with strength, and decide from a place of power, not fear. He may be emotionally attached but scared. That's his truth. But your truth is to never shrink your standard while waiting for him to find his courage. His fear is real, but so is your worth. And only one of those deserves to lead your life. This is one of the most confusing patterns you will ever face in relationships. A man shows up in your life with care, with consistency, with energy that feels real. He remembers your words, he notices your moods, he takes small actions that reveal attention. His actions lean toward you. They say, I am invested. I see you. I care about you. But then when you seek clarity, when you ask for words to match the actions, he pulls away. His lips hesitate. His voice grows cautious. His sentences shrink. The warmth of his presence collides with the chill of his silence. This is not hypocrisy. It is conflict. Inside him lives a duality, the part that wants closeness and the part that fears vulnerability. His actions reveal desire, but his words reveal fear. And in the clash between those two forces, you are left questioning everything. Does he care? Does he not? Why does he show up but refuse to say it? You must understand the psychology of this. For many men, words are dangerous. Words lock feelings into definition. Words turn private longing into public responsibility. To speak love is to risk being trapped, to risk rejection, to risk losing control. So they hold back. They act instead. They reveal themselves in presence, in gesture, in the small ways that feel safe. Actions lean in, words retreat. But here's the reality. Actions without words create confusion. Words without actions create emptiness. The truth is always found when both align. If his actions show care but his words deny it, he is not yet whole. He is divided, and a divided man cannot build a united relationship. Now, here is the strength you must hold. Do not let his conflict become your cage. Too many people wait, hoping his words will eventually catch up with his actions. They accept the care but excuse the silence. They rationalize his fear and call it patience, but patience without boundaries is self-betrayal. You must learn to read the signs with clarity without surrendering your power. Yes, his actions mean something. They are not fake. A man who invests his energy is not indifferent. His presence is proof of attachment, but attachment is not enough. Attachment must evolve into commitment, and commitment requires words that match actions. Think of it this way. Actions are the body of love, but words are the spine. Without the spine, the body collapses. You may feel cared for, but you will not feel secure. You may sense connection, but you will not have clarity. His hesitation will always leave you doubting, questioning, and waiting. And waiting is where your strength begins to erode. So what do? You stand firm in your standard. You acknowledge his actions, but you do not excuse his silence. You recognize his fear, but you refuse to let it define your life. You make it clear, I see what you do, I feel your care, but I cannot live in half-truths. I need alignment. I need actions and words to meet. This is not about ultimatums. It is about clarity. It is about refusing to lower your worth to match his fear. Because a relationship built on imbalance will always collapse. His actions may comfort you temporarily, but his silence will wound you permanently. Understand this. Courage is the bridge between action and word. If he cannot find that courage, then his attachment will never mature into love. And you cannot build your life on immaturity. You cannot build your future on hesitation. Your power lies in refusing to compromise. If his actions lean in, but his words pull back, you must ask yourself, how long will I accept half of a truth? How long will I wait for alignment that may never come? Strength is not in clinging to potential. It is in protecting your standard. Because here's the ultimate truth. Love is not meant to confuse you. Real love clarifies, strengthens, and steadies you. If his presence makes you question, then his fear is louder than his love. If his silence outweighs his words, then his desire has not conquered his fear. And it's his battle, not yours. So, never mistake divided behavior for full devotion. Never confuse partial investment for complete love. His actions may lean toward you, but until his words align, you are living in half-light, and half-light is not enough for a life as valuable as yours. Hold your standard. Demand alignment. If he is truly invested, he will rise. His actions and words will finally meet, and in that meeting, you will find clarity. But if he cannot bridge the gap, then you must walk away, not out of bitterness, but out of strength. Because you deserve a love where presence is intense, actions are consistent, and words are courageous enough to match them. His actions lean toward you, but his words pull away. That is not the end of the story. The end of the story is whether you allow that contradiction to define your worth, or whether you choose a love that refuses to hide behind silence. This is one of the most revealing contradictions you'll ever encounter in human connection. Watch closely. He shows up with consistency in the little things. He checks in. He remembers details you barely recall mentioning. He creates moments of presence, small tokens of care that prove you are not just another person in his orbit. He invests energy, time, and focus. And yet, when it comes to clear, direct declarations, words that define, words that commit, he retreats. His silence becomes louder than his presence. His hesitation clouds the meaning of his actions. Why does this happen? It is not because the small gestures are meaningless. Quite the opposite. They are deeply meaningful. They reveal attachment, affection, even love. But the absence of declarations reveals fear, fear of responsibility, fear of vulnerability, fear that words once spoken cannot be taken back. Small actions are safe. They are flexible, deniable, easily dismissed if confronted. A man can invest in these gestures and still protect himself. But declarations require courage. They expose him. They lock him into the truth of what he feels. They demand alignment between his inner world and his outer life. That is the line many men resist crossing. But here is the truth you must hold. Love cannot be built on small gestures alone. A life cannot be anchored in fragments. Clarity requires more than hints, and trust requires more than half steps. His energy may comfort you, but without directness cannot secure you. Too many people settle for fragments. They convince themselves that small investments are enough. They mistake consistency for clarity. They accept gestures as a substitute for words. And slowly, their strength begins to erode. They doubt themselves, wonder if they're asking for too much, and lower their standards to match his hesitation. But lowering your standard is the fastest way to destroy your self-respect. You must recognize that energy without declaration is incomplete. It is like a song without melody. Something is missing, something vital. Yes, his actions matter. They reveal real care. But you must demand more than care. You must demand courage. Understand this. His avoidance is not your fault. It is not your job to drag words out of him, to beg for clarity, to force declarations. Your role is not to chase, but to stand. To stand in the power of your worth and make it clear. You deserve alignment. You deserve not only gestures, but truth. Not only fragments, but fullness. Here's what strength looks like. Appreciating the energy he invests, but refusing to let it keep you trapped in uncertainty. It looks like saying, I see your effort, but I will not settle for silence where clarity is required. It looks like drawing a line, not as a punishment, but as a declaration of your own value. Because a man who truly values you will rise to that line. He may hesitate, but he will not hide forever. Fear may slow him, but love will push him forward. The right man will find the courage to declare, to speak, to align his words with his actions. And if he cannot, then his attachment is not yet strong enough to meet the demands of real love. Think about it. Can you build a future on half-truths? Can you rest in the comfort of gestures that never grow into commitment? Can you spend years interpreting silence, hoping it will one day turn into words? That is not strength. That is self-abandonment. Your power lies in refusing to abandon yourself for the sake of someone else's fear. It lies in choosing clarity over confusion, alignment over contradiction, courage over hesitation. Do not excuse his avoidance by magnifying his gestures. Appreciate them, yes, but recognize they are not enough. The truth is simple. Love requires bravery. To love is to risk, to declare, to stand in the light of commitment. Small gestures are the beginning, but they are not the end. Without direct declarations, the foundation will always remain incomplete. So remember this, a man who invests energy in small ways but avoids direct declarations is not your enemy, but he is not yet your partner. He is caught between desire and fear, and until he resolves that conflict, you must guard your own heart. Do not mistake fragments for fullness. Do not confuse effort with courage. And above all, do not sacrifice your standard for someone else's fear. Because real love is not afraid to speak. Real love does not hide behind gestures. Real love aligns action with word, presence with declaration, and you deserve nothing less. He invests energy in small ways but avoids direct declarations. Your strength is in seeing both truths clearly and choosing the love that does not retreat from clarity. This is the inner battlefield where countless men silently struggle. On one side is his need for freedom, his sense of identity, autonomy, and control. On the other side is his hunger for intimacy, the longing to be seen, understood, and bonded with another soul. These two forces often pull in opposite directions. Independence tells him, don't get trapped, don't get tied down, don't lose yourself. Connection whispers, you are incomplete alone, you crave closeness, you need to love and be loved. When these collide, his behavior becomes contradictory, confusing, even painful for the one who loves him. You see it in the way he leans in and pulls back. He invests in moments of tenderness but retreats when the relationship deepens. He wants to be with you, but he fears being consumed by you. He gives just enough to show care, but not enough to surrender control. It is not indifference. It is inner conflict. Why does this happen? Because independence, for many men, is tied to identity. From the earliest stages of life, he is taught to define himself by what he can control, to be strong, to be untouchable, to stand alone. Vulnerability feels like weakness, dependence feels like defeat. So when love demands surrender, he resists, not because love is unwanted, but because love threatens the structures of independence he has built around his ego. And yet, connection is not optional for the human heart. We are wired for it. We thrive in it. Without it, life becomes shallow and restless, so he cannot simply walk away. He needs it as much as he fears it. That's why his behavior appears split. His heart pulls him toward closeness, while his fear drags him back into isolation. This is where strength on your part becomes essential. Many people in the face of this contradiction choose to chase. They try to prove they will not smother him. They shrink themselves to protect his independence. They overcompensate for his fear. But in doing so, they abandon their own need for connection. They bend so far that they break. You cannot solve his conflict by sacrificing yourself. You cannot heal his fear of losing independence by losing your own. The answer is not to make yourself smaller, but to stand in your fullness, to show him that love does not erase identity. It enhances it. That connection does not destroy independence. It gives it depth and meaning. Understand this. His fear is real, but it is not unbreakable. The right kind of strength will challenge him to grow. If you hold firm to your standards, if you refuse to compromise your worth for his hesitation, he will be forced to confront his inner division. He will have to decide whether his independence is more important than his need for love. And if his desire is real, he will rise. But here is the hard truth. Not every man conquers this battle. Some will choose fear over love. Some will cling to independence so tightly that they live half-lives, safe, controlled, but lonely. And that is not your burden to carry. If he cannot resolve his inner conflict, you cannot rescue him from it. You must choose clarity over confusion. Because real love is not meant to suffocate, nor is it meant to retreat. Real love balances freedom with connection. It allows two people to keep their individuality while sharing their souls. Independence is not lost in love. It is transformed. It becomes interdependence, where both stand strong but choose to stand together. So what does this mean for you? It means you must never confuse his fear with your value. His hesitation is not a reflection of your worth, but of his conflict. His inability to declare does not mean you are undeserving. It means he is unready, and your strength is in refusing to wait forever. You can respect his fear without living under its weight. You can recognize his need for independence without sacrificing your own need for connection. The key is this. Do not fight his battle for him. Do not collapse into his hesitation. Do not shrink yourself into silence. Instead, live in alignment with truth. Be clear about what you want. Stand strong in your standards. Make it undeniable that connection requires courage. And if he wants to step into that space with you, he will have to bring not only his actions, but his declarations, his courage, and his commitment. Because at the end of the day, independence without connection leads to emptiness, and connection without independence leads to suffocation. True love is the merging of both. His fear of losing independence collides with his need for connection, but your strength is in refusing to be torn apart by his battle. You stand firm, you demand alignment, and you choose only the love that has the courage to balance freedom with devotion. That is where real love lives. This is a subtle but powerful truth about how some men reveal their emotions. You might not hear dramatic confessions. You might not feel overwhelming declarations. You might not see grand displays of passion. Yet if you pay attention, you notice something else. He is consistent. He shows up. He maintains presence. He may not give you intensity in words or gestures, but he gives you reliability. And in that reliability, his heart is speaking a language of its own. Consistency is not glamorous. It is not fireworks. It is not roses. It is not long speeches about love. Consistency is steady, quiet, almost invisible. But it is also unshakable. A man who shows up again and again, even in small ways, is telling you something profound. I may not know how to pour out intensity, but I know how to stay. I know how to keep showing up because you matter. Why does he avoid intensity? Because intensity feels dangerous. Intensity requires vulnerability, to express overwhelming love, to declare deep feelings, to pour himself out without holding back. That opens him to rejection, to judgment, to losing control. For many men, intensity feels like standing on a cliff edge. It is beautiful, but terrifying. So he stays where he feels safe, inside consistency. He invests in the steady rhythms of presence rather than the vulnerability of intensity. But here is the truth. Consistency is a form of devotion. It may not thrill you in the same way intensity does, but it creates a foundation stronger than fleeting passion. Intensity can burn hot and disappear. Consistency endures. Intensity speaks loudly but briefly. Consistency whispers again and again until the whisper becomes unshakable proof. Yet you must also see the other side. Consistency without intensity can leave you questioning. You may wonder, does he truly feel deeply or is he just comfortable? Is this devotion or just habit? That is the challenge of interpreting his behavior. His consistency keeps you close, but his avoidance of intensity keeps you uncertain. What do you do in this space? You refuse to undervalue consistency, but you also refuse to ignore the absence of depth. You recognize the gift of reliability, because in a world full of men who show up in bursts and disappear when challenged, a man who stays is rare. But you also make it clear, presence alone is not enough. Real love requires both consistency and vulnerability, both reliability and depth. Strength for you is not in chasing intensity out of him, nor in settling for half of what you deserve. Strength is in standing in truth. You can honor his steady presence while holding space for more. You can appreciate his consistency without excusing his fear of intensity. And in doing so, you give him the chance to rise. Because growth happens at the edge of fear. If he truly values you, consistency will become the training ground for intensity. His steady presence will give him the courage to express more, to risk more, to give more of his heart. But if he never chooses that, if he hides forever behind the shield of consistency, then you must decide, will you settle for safety without depth, or will you choose a love that dares to risk vulnerability? Here's what you must remember. Love is not only about how someone stays, but also about how someone grows. Presence is the beginning. Intensity, the courage to be vulnerable, to be fully seen, is the continuation. Without both, love remains incomplete. So do not dismiss consistency. It's proof of care, proof of value, proof of investment. But do not stop there. Hold to the standard that love must eventually grow into both steadiness and depth. Refuse to live in half light when you deserve the fullness of connection. Because real love is not just consistent, It is also courageous. Real love is not afraid of intensity. It does not hide from vulnerability. It does not retreat from depth. He stays present through consistency, even when he avoids intensity. But the true test is whether that consistency matures into courage, whether he chooses not only to stay, but to speak, to feel, and to risk the depth of real connection. Would you like me to reframe this in a rhythm of short, punchy lines and pauses so it feels like a live motivational delivery?